Welcome back to Christy's Book Corner. I'm your host, Christy Mason, and today we'll be reading the second action chapter, chapter 12 of our book, The Adventures of Connecticut, Connecticut's Journey to Grand Central Station. And let's begin. Chapter 12, The Battle of Connecticut. Ooh. Larry and Johnny Boy were hiding inside Ricky's and Morelli's janitorial closet, that's a hard last name to say, was filled with large boxes of cleaning supplies. They didn't move a muscle. The police declared the station clear, assuming they had left. The lockdown was lifted and the station was open for business as usual. In the meantime, Melman, Lexington, and several other friends joined Kate, Connecticut, Jordan, and Christopher in the lobby. They were forming a plan to catch the thugs. Larry and Johnny Boy heard people walking and talking outside the janitor's closet. "It sounds like the station is back to normal," Larry said as he poked his head up and above a large box. "Let's get out of here." They jumped up from behind the boxes and opened the closet door a crack. Larry peeked out. "What do you see?" Johnny Boy asked as he took a jug of soap out of one of the boxes. "Quiet, you numbskull," Larry hissed. "What are you doing with that soap? The police are going to come on. Follow me." They walked out of the closet and tried to blend in with the other people. Suddenly, Connecticut and the others saw Larry and Johnny Boy near the staircase. Without thinking, Larry grabbed the jug of soap from Johnny Boy and threw it toward them. The soap jug hit Melman's forehead and knocked him out. Melman was sprawling out of the floor. He was hurt badly and needed to go to the hospital. "Call an ambulance," Jordan shouted out to one of the workers at the newsstand. Melman was worried about Melman, and he was even more worried about himself. Someone has got to win this fight and finish it, he thought to himself. Several people came over to see if Melman was okay. Kate took her jacket off and made a little pillow for his head. She gently raised his head and slid her jacket underneath. Larry and Johnny Boy ran out of the station before anyone could catch them. Before they walked out at the door, Larry turned around and locked eyes with Connecticut. He lifted his hand and made a motion of the knife slitting his throat. That's scary. Connecticut knew Larry and Johnny Boy would be back to get him. He would have to prepare for the next battle. He was very puzzled about Larry and Johnny Boy. He couldn't figure out why they wanted him so bad. "It's really hard to live when someone wants to kill you," Connecticut thought to himself. Connecticut couldn't imagine being alone, not even for a minute. He realized he would need to be surrounded by people all the time. He was sure they wouldn't stop trying to get him. Everyone was happy when Grand Central hired several more security guards the following day. The security guards were walking around, keeping a keen eye on everything and everybody as best they could. It wasn't enough, though, because Larry and Johnny Boy came back that morning, and the battle began all over again. This fight ended up being one of the biggest in the history of New York City. Hundreds of people were involved. Some people didn't even know who they were fighting or why. Larry and Johnny Boy were trying to get their hands on Connecticut. Melman, who had been released from the hospital that evening before, walked back into the Grand Central. Mom Race hurried over and grabbed him. "After that, you might get hurt again," Melman assured Mom Race that he was fine. He insisted on helping Connecticut and ran off to join him in the fight. Connecticut saw Melman and was happy that his friend was okay. He couldn't help but think how stupid this fight was. It was all about a teenager, and that teenager happened to be him. He popped into Connecticut's head that he was happy that Kate was home safe. Will this battle ever end? He wondered to himself. Once again, Grand Central was placed under lockdown. The station officially closed at 10 o'clock in the morning. An hour later, the huge fight involving hundreds of people was still going strong. In a big city like New York, Fights can happen easily and quickly. There were so many people fighting that Connecticut thought this fight would possibly go on for days. Connecticut was extremely exhausted, and he couldn't run anymore. He had to be very careful not to get caught by Larry and Johnny Boy. Larry came close to grabbing him, but Connecticut managed to squirm away. Connecticut ran past a big clock. He stopped in the middle of the station and yelled out to the fighting crowd, "That's enough! This fight has been going on too long, and I'm tired of running. Please stop fighting over me and let me live my life the way I want to live it." Larry and Johnny Boy, along with their crew of thugs, were standing in the lobby across from the big clock. Connecticut's friends and the security guards were standing beside him. Connecticut walked over to the center of the lobby between the two sides. He thought he could bring peace to both sides and end the fight, but he was wrong. Larry ran to the center of the lobby and grabbed Connecticut. He had him. Larry held the back of Connecticut's shirt and forced him to walk toward the door. Connecticut knew Larry wanted to kill him. He called out to Jordan, but there was so much commotion that Jordan couldn't hear him. The police pulled out their weapons, but they were unable to shoot. Larry and Johnny Boy were using Connecticut as a shield. "Keep quiet," Larry barked at Connecticut. "They've got Connecticut," Jordan exclaimed. "We've got to follow them." Meanwhile, Larry and Johnny Boy and the crew of thugs led Connecticut to an underground parking garage, where their cars were parked. They almost made it to their getaway car when suddenly they saw a large army of security guards and police coming toward them. It was now just afternoon, and another huge fight broke out between the thugs and the army of security guards and police. Larry and Johnny Boy were especially angry because they almost got away with Connecticut. Jordan, Melman, and Christopher were searching for Connecticut near the parking garage when they heard the huge fight. "Come on, Connecticut might be in there," Jordan yelled out. They raced into the parking garage and saw Connecticut. Melman ran toward him. Larry picked up a large rock and hurled it at Melman. This is the part that I don't like. The rock hit him on the head, and down he went again, blood pouring from the huge gash on his forehead. A doctor happened to be nearby and ran over to save him. It was no use. Poor Melman had passed away that day while the fight continued all around his lifeless body. Larry didn't care that he caused Melman's death. I don't like that. That's why I'm reading it so fast. The police knew they needed to back up. This tragic fight was getting out of control. They radioed in their headquarters. They needed a very skilled fighter to help them, and they put in a request for the best fighter in the city, Matthew Stone. As an actor, Matthew had learned his fighting skills by playing parts in all kinds of movies. He happened to be at the police station when they called him in, and the chief told him they needed his help over at Grand Central. Matthew said he would be happy to help out, and he arrived at the station minutes later. Matthew immediately joined the police and the security guards to plot their plan of action. Later that afternoon, one of Melman's good friends, Doc, went to Grand Central to search for him. Dad Reese saw Doc and motioned for him to come over to him. He hugged him and told him the terrible news that his friend was killed in the battle. Dad Reese also told Doc that Melman would forever live in their hearts for his bravery. Doc said he wanted to join the fight to help Connecticut. The fighting continued. Everyone now and then things would be quiet for a second or two. It was almost like a message of peace was trying to pass through everyone, but it just couldn't get there. Connecticut realized that the fight would never stop until one side declares victory. Mom and Dad Reese were scared to death that Connecticut would end up hurt, or even worse, killed like his good friend Melman. Matthew was the best fighter they had ever, and he had kept fighting all through the afternoon. Matthew had faith in himself, and his heart was filled with peace. It was getting close to 3 o'clock. "At least Melman is in a safe place now," Connecticut said to himself. Later, Larry hadn't actually tried to kill Melman. He only meant to knock him out. Larry was as surprised as anyone when Melman died, but he wasn't sad about it one little bit. Everyone appreciated what Melman had done. He risked his own life to save his friend, and that was a very brave thing to do. What a great friend he had been to Connecticut. I'm about to cry. Matthew was skilled enough to fight with both Larry and Johnny Boy at the same time. Everyone was amazed at the way Matthew could fight. Things finally came to an end that afternoon at 4:30. The fight involving hundreds of people became known as the Battle of Connecticut. And that's the title of the chapter. And to this day, it's the longest fight in the history of New York. Never before had so many people been involved in the riot or fight. Some people couldn't explain why they got involved. Others said they did because they happened to be in the station when the fight broke out, and they wanted to help. Unfortunately, it wasn't long before people were completely out of control. Somehow, Larry and Johnny Boy managed to escape. Matthew and the police chased them, but they were too quick and they disappeared into the streets. Connecticut thought it was kind of funny. Stupid bug. Connecticut thought it was kind of funny watching them get chased for a change. It was too bad they got away. The police thanked Matthew for his help, and Matthew vowed to catch them one day. Oh my god, that chapter is so, intense. And the fact that Melman dies, it's so sad. I almost cried. I got, choked up. I got the big gulp of whatever, a big gulp in my throat. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. We will continue our book, chapter 13, tomorrow. Please subscribe, comment, and like, and I will see you tomorrow. And don't forget to dare to dream.